heard. But please, if you're on the line, please kind of mute your line so we don't hear all your background noise, because we want to definitely hear all of the content that is being brought to us tonight. And of course, I want to start off saying healthy relationship starts with a common denominator. And the common denominator is you.
Right.
So you make a decision if you are an addition or subtracting or multiplier or divider. And so it was something that I saw that was really wonderful in the book about single wives. And one of the things is don't marry for the wrong reasons. And a lot of times we marry because we're pressured into it, because we believe it's image, it's the time, we set these clocks. And people believe that women are the only ones that set these clocks in their lives. But men set these clocks as well. They want to be married, they want to have 2 kids, a cat, a dog, a house, all these things in place. They should have the 6 figures and all these things in a set place by a certain set time. So how do you tell people it's okay right now to be single? You should be preparing yourself. What are the steps that you give people in order to find that preparation?
First of all, thank you so much for allowing me to come and chat with everybody about one of the most funnest, and I know that ain't good English, the funnest topics ever, relationships.
Yes.
Everybody loves talking about relationships. And the thing is, like you said, the common denominator in any healthy relationship is us.
Yeah.
So ultimately, I like to start with saying, hey, the best person I'm in a relationship is with me, because I'm in this journey with myself the rest of my life. Whether I am in a relationship with a spouse or not, we're in a journey with ourselves.
Yeah.
We're on a journey by ourselves with God, right? So it's a walk, understanding who we are, understanding what makes us up, and that helps us to be more effective in any kind of relationship as a mother. Purpose. It's all about purpose. So I start there. Do you know your purpose?
Okay, and I'm glad that you jumped into that about purpose, because I know I saw you had your ad is purpose driven on Instagram, and what really made me think about it is you had destiny driven decisions. And I've actually heard people say a lot of times we look for partners, we look for people to actually complete us, and that's a bad term, because we should be complete, whole, healthy people when we get into a relationship. And that's what some of the wrong reasons. We're looking people to fill in the gaps, those little missing, broken pieces that's within us. But when I think about destiny driven, I think about finding a life partner, somebody who not just compliments. We look for the compliments, but a person that can go with us anywhere our relationship vehicle ends up, and it doesn't break down and tear and separate us. So what is the thing that you're talking about that's destiny driven, that takes people to that next level so that they can understand? And what it says is attract your ideal mate by becoming the ideal mate.
Right.
So what is destiny driven decisions that we need to make as single people so that our decisions don't end up having us to find dead-end relationships or relationships that go on huge detours?
The first thing that everyone needs to understand is that you are created in the image of God, formed in His likeness for a purpose, a life assignment. One of which is to glorify God in everything that we do, which would include relationships, right?
Yeah.
So a healthy relationship is built on that understanding that I'm like God. I'm created for the purposes of assignments on earth for God. He's our first partner. He's our supernatural partner on this life journey, right? So when we're tight in relationship with Him, we begin to understand His character. God has characteristics. He's a God of love. He's a God of peace. He's a God of joy. He exudes. Everything that He does is purposed with love, right? So the first thing that I look for in a person who I'm looking to build a relationship with, whether it's romantic or business, is the characteristics of God, because we have to be equally yoked. And how can two walk together unless they agree? We have to agree, one, with ourselves. Are you aligned with the purposes of God? Do you understand who you are? Do you understand why you're here? Do you understand what a healthy relationship looks like based on godly principles? In this book, Single Wives, is based on Proverbs 18:22. He who finds a wife finds a good thing and obtains God's favor. That would mean she would need to be a wife before the wedding, right?
Yeah.
So you have to be found in a place of understanding who you are in God and prepared in purpose. Are you on your assignment? you things begin to attract themselves to you when you're operating in the kingdom, right? When you're operating on your assignment. Seek ye first the kingdom, God's way of doing things, and then everything else it attracts to you. So this is the premise, and everything is built on that.
I like what you said about the assignment. Because if you're on your assignment, you'll be found. And it makes me think about when people always, women always ask, where's my Boaz?
Right, that is a big question.
Where's my Boaz?
Right.
Boaz is out in the field if you're working.
He working.
That's right, because
Right.
Ruth was on her assignment.
Right.
Stop looking for Boaz. He
Right.
already
He
married
busy.
Ruth. Find your own man.
Right.
So don't go into a dead field trying to get somebody else's man.
Thank you.
First of all,
Thank
that's not where you're supposed to be going.
Right.
Looking for somebody else's man. And you stop looking for a man, he's supposed to find you.
Thank you.
And so men who are looking for women, I'm gonna talk to the men out here. Make sure she working, and I don't mean actually at a 9 to 5, but she's doing something of purpose. What? So don't find a woman who don't know her purpose, don't know her call, and don't know her direction, that assignment, and that's key because an assignment is more than me just going to a 9 to 5. Even if a 9 to 5 is what I have, but there's some God-given purpose for me to show up to that 9 to 5. It's some calling. It's something that I'm supposed to be changing, transitioning, bringing glory, bringing honor. So talk about those things. What is it that you're doing? A lot of us get lost, caught up in the grind of the world of just working, but we forget that we do have an assignment. We do have a purpose because we haven't tapped into those gifts that we should be opening up. How do you help people find their assignment, their purpose, to find that destiny driven so you don't get hooked up with a partner for the wrong reasons?
Right. Well, it all starts with, again, understanding who we are in God and having a relationship, a real relationship with Christ. Because we go to church, because we're Christians, that doesn't necessarily mean you have a relationship with God, a relationship with Jesus. Preparing in your singleness, and this extends to marriage because just because you're married doesn't mean that you're a wife. You might not understand the office, right? But we practice by how we have a relationship with God. I learned how to love Him, how He pursues me, how He's forgiven, and how I'm always to be forgiven. How our whole relationship is built upon sacrifice. Because I love Him, because I honor Him, I do X, Y, and Z, right? Right. That's how a marriage is built. Because He loves me like Christ loves the church. He sacrifices and He X, Y, we minister to each other. Yeah. So it's a two-way ministry. But if you never have that kind of tight-knit relationship with Jesus, you don't really understand that full life of sacrifice. That's what marriage is. Yeah. But see, people glamorize the wedding dress and the ring. But the wedding day. Everything that comes after that is service and ministry to a life partner. So when I think about someone who I would consider a marriage potential, they have to understand the office of a husband. They have to have a relationship with Christ. They have to be working on their purpose. What does that look like? Okay, God built the institution of marriage for us to be able to, again, operate in our purpose, but He brings two people together to do it together. Yeah. Right? So when I'm looking for a person, I'm looking for a person's characteristics to see if they're compatible. I look at what God said about compatibility. Mm-hmm. He talked about it in Genesis.
Yes, He does. He
talked about Adam needing a wife, having a wife, preparing for a wife who is comparable, a help meet. That's what He calls her, right? That's a position. It's an office where your life assignment is long-term. It's not short. So the first thing is I help people to see that everything is eternally focused. We have to get out of like this moment, the next moment. What was God planned from the beginning for our life eternally? One, to glorify Him. One, to be in relationship with Him. But every person that we're to get yoked up with in relationship should be walking along those same lines. Okay. You understand what I'm saying?
Oh, I do. But what I want to do is the people that are listening in, and a lot of people say, well, I really hadn't learned my word that great. Okay. I'm not really that deep into it. So how do I get help, and how can I be ministered to help find some direction? Because I haven't reached that level. Okay. I haven't reached that level in my word, and unfortunately, I'm already in a relationship. Okay. And see, that's what happens. They might not be married, but I'm in a relationship. I like this person. I see the potential. Yes. I see the partnership. I can see the lifetime. But how do I know now? How do I actually start transitioning within this singleness? Sure. But within the singleness, so I can still work within the partner that I have in order to get me there. How do I begin to study my mate and actually learn what God says, what I'm supposed to do with these things that come up and that are revealed to me, so I can learn to be discerning.
Right.
And I'm gonna let you put a pin in there because it was something, because when you were talking, I mean that role and position thing, it really hits home for me because when you talk about that, one of the key things we don't like in the vows is when we talk about that I have to obey. People don't like that word obey. Obey, because because it gets to be I'm doing what you're told.
Yeah.
But the thing is, obey is really a place of submission.
Right.
If people understood obey was submission, and it's really just getting in your rightful place as a rib.
Right.
Your rightful place is a rib.
Right.
Because a lot of times as women, we want to be the neck. We want to control what the man.
Yes.
He's still the head, but we want to be his neck.
Right.
We want to be the eyes.
Right.
We want to be the brain.
All of it.
But we have to actually know, like you say, our position.
Yeah.
And we have to be preparing for that before we get there. Because if you think, when you say I do, all of a sudden there's a light switch that comes on that lets you know how to begin to act like a rib. It is not. Because the thing is, what I've learned about a rib is sometimes you're going to be broke. Sometimes you're going to be broke. You are. You have to be broken. A rib can be really healed again, but it has to be broken sometimes in order to stay in its position to protect your man's heart.
That's right.
You're supposed to be there. You got to contract. You got to have
That's
humility
right.
sometimes to learn how to get smaller in your position because you're supposed to allow him to breathe. So sometimes you need to be bigger,
Right.
larger than life so you can do
Right.
whatever you need to do. Sometimes you need to learn how to shrink and get in your position to hold his heart a little bit tighter. But the thing is, that's why I say, learn what that rib actually does and works within there. Then you will understand a little bit better. And if you already know you can't follow,
Yeah.
you already know you don't have a sense of humility.
Right.
You already know you always got to be the big I, and you never understand the concept of we.
Right.
That means you are not ready for singleness. We got somebody else on the line. We appreciate you all. And I am going to let y'all get in and get some questions. But I mean, I'm loving this conversation because I don't want you all to walk away and say, hey, we are talking about godly relationships, so don't get confused because this is the praise, voice in the gospel.
Right.
But the thing is, in order to have a godly relationship and a healthy relationship, you got to know God.
That's
you got to
the
know
point.
God.
You got to.
And I'm not talking about your pastor.
Right.
I'm not talking about show up at every event. I'm not talking about being involved.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of times how marriages get messed up because you're trying to be so in church,
Wow.
but not so in the word.
Wow.
Yeah, that you lose your relationship.
Yeah.
So before you get so involved in the church and being busy and caught up in tradition and saying that you're a Christian, you need to make sure that you're rooted in the word. So when the wind does come, you are strong enough to handle whatever occurs in your relationship.
And I mean, you just said it. I mean, ultimately, I hate to keep harping on that point, but really, fundamentally, that is true. We get into situations, relationships, a lot of times because we're led out of our emotions.
Yes.
It's natural to want to be with someone. That's how we're made. That's how we're created for a relationship. We're created for a relationship with God first, to worship Him, to praise Him, to glorify Him. We're also created for a relationship with people, right? It's natural. But when our passion is much more strong to be with a person or to be in a relationship than it is to run after the things of God and to understand who God created us to be and work on those things, that's where idolatry comes in, and you can already know straight up you're off track right then when you need to be in a relationship as opposed to wanting to be in a relationship. Let's talk about the people who are already married. When you are your spouse isn't God.
Amen.
Your spouse can't be God for you. So if you learn before you get married that God is our source and we have our fullness, our understanding of Him supplying everything that we need as a person, our partners get the overflow of that, and we can then minister, right? You won't have wrong expectations of the people who you get in a relationship with. They can't save you. They can't make you happy 24 hours a day. So once you get that in your mind before you get in a relationship, you won't put that God burden on your spouse. They can't be God. They're not going to be able to fulfill every one of your desires. But when you are fulfilled in God, you don't expect that. That's how you know when maybe you need to take a step back. When you're anxious, when you're frustrated a lot, when you are feeling like your spouse needs to be the end all and be all in your life. That's a sign that you're off
I like that word that God is the provider.
Yeah.
Because I hear always the time that man is supposed to be the provider.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times, and that's why I do like this book called Single Wives, Attracting Your Ideal Mate, because women have got in their mind that the man is supposed to be the provider.
Yeah.
Yes, he's providing through whatever God that gave him provision to.
Right.
So it does not mean that the whole burden belongs on him.
Right.
And it does not mean the provision looks like what you'd want it to be.
Thank
you
you.
have to accept where that man is and accept the provision that he's able to provide until God increases his territory, until God enlarges him. Because as a help meet, you are supposed to meet him where he is and help him there. Not actually push him and actually strain him to get to another level.
What do you mean? We're women. We're created to help our men, to push them into their destiny and to support their vision and to give our all to make sure that we see the potential in them. Aren't we supposed to do that?
Yeah, you're supposed to support him, not enslave him. That's the difference. You're supposed to support him in his visions, not create a vision and say, this is your vision.
Right.
Yeah, and I think that's where we get lost. We've created the vision of how we want it to look.
Yeah.
And then we lose the position of actually allowing him to be the head and allowing him to lead.
Right.
Yes, we have a voice.
Right.
We have a vision. We are allowed to follow our calling and assignment.
Right.
And I mean, because my husband definitely supports me in my assignment here.
Right.
I mean, he makes sure I show up and on time.
Amen.
And he is here, always with me.
Amen.
But at the same time, I understand what is the greater team,
Right.
the we vision. This is a component of it,
Right.
not just the me show.
Right.
You understand?
I completely
so
understand.
there's a place that when we become independent woman, and we believe that we've become so independent, we don't need a man.
Wow.
That's where we become disconnected with God's
Right.
vision for our lives. Because if you want covering, if you want protection,
Right.
those are the things that a man is to provide. He's supposed to provide direction, because if you have no head, you have no direction. If you have no protection, that means you are just out in this world
Right.
being hurt by everything that comes. So he is that protection from that emotional base, because he's spiritually stronger.
Right.
Because he's
I gotta
in there.
stop you.
Okay.
That's if he's spiritually strong. And
Yeah.
that's the first problem. When you asked early on, and I was really waiting for the Holy Spirit to give me guidance on how to answer that.
Okay.
While we get into those situations, a lot of times we pick people who we see do not possess the godly characteristics, and then we expect them to be godly. We can't expect a person who doesn't know God to give us the love of God, right? So the first thing is selecting people who you see display characteristics that aren't in line with godliness. They don't tell you the truth, but then you expect them to be honest in a marriage, and they weren't honest to you when you were dating. You understand? They've been dishonest to you quite some time, but you're expecting in your mind, because you love them, to those are things you have to stop and look at. I'm not saying they're a bad person. I'm not saying that they're not the one. I'm not saying any of that, but I'm saying those are things that you need to look at. Those are signs that tell you, maybe you want to address their development in God at that point. Are they ready?
Yeah.
You
Sometimes the person can become a different person,
Right.
but they cannot become a different person because you're dragging them there.
Right. It's a self-driven process. It's a destiny-driven decision to follow after the things of God, to evolve into Christ-likeness, to become a husband, from wherever their perspective is. Lots of men, unfortunately, haven't seen great examples of what a godly husband looks like or what a father looks like.
And I'm glad you said that, but it's not just men who aren't godly.
Right.
It's men who show up at church and they assume because the woman is in church,
Oh, gosh.
she's a godly woman,
Yeah.
even though she has not exhibited anything godly, but because she was in a church when she was found.
Yeah.
So that's why I say people don't get confused that the edifice of church makes you godly. It is the church that lives inside of you which actually creates that godliness. So we got to be in the right place so we know that we are connecting with God. And how we know that is, but first, like you say, if we've prepared ourselves, if we've prepared ourselves and we've become godly, we can make a discernment.
You can
and
see.
and the thing is, you're not looking for a perfect person. And I think that sometimes in the single world, you think, well, I've become godly, I've arrived, I've got all these characteristics myself, so I'm looking for this person who's arrived and come as far as I have. That's not necessarily. Sometimes you are to be in a relationship where you're to help and to mold somebody
Right.
to a different place. But you have to be in tune to know that you're not supposed to be saving them or changing them. There's a difference
Big
between
difference.
being in tune to help them along the journey, because you're there to be their guide,
Right.
be their head, to be their guide, not to be their savior, because Jesus already came to
He's
be
the
our
only
savior.
one. He's the
Yeah,
only- he's the only
he's
one.
already came to be our savior.
Yeah.
So if you're looking for a savior in a man, if you're looking for a savior in a woman, that's not. And if you're looking for a cartoon superhero character, you're looking for Superman, Catwoman, all those
Right,
wonderful things to
right.
come in. That is cartoon. That is dreamland.
It's fantasy.
Yeah, so we have to get to realistic expectations and our relationships of what it is that we're expecting to see, exhibit from our true relationships.
Right.
So I want you, Latez, to give, what are the characteristics, well, not really the characteristics, what is the turning point as a single person that you know that I'm just not out there dating, having fun anymore, that I'm actually dating with a purpose to find a mate? Now, how do you help people make that transition and make that turn?
I asked them first to locate yourself.
Okay.
And that's a chapter in this book. You have to locate yourself. Where are you in your purpose? Do you currently feel the kingdom of God, meaning peace, joy, a settledness with life? You understand what I'm saying? Like a happiness in the moment, not an anxiousness about the things to come. And this is across the board, not just relationships. When you get to that place of alignment with the perfect will of God, that means that, okay, God, I understand where I am. I understand that I don't know, what's going to happen tomorrow, detail by detail, but I'm okay with you leading me. I'm okay with where we are. God, this is our relationship, right? When you get to that place, that's a very special place, and it takes a lot of time to get there, because we're all shaped by things that have happened to us before.
Yeah.
We're all shaped by our previous relationships. And what I talk about in this book is I've been in a marriage that wasn't God ordained, right? It was fundamentally broken, and I made some decisions that weren't destiny driven. Having the time to look back over the years and figure out where I was when I made those decisions, it was very simple things that led me there. And this is what I find in talking to women all over, men too. This is the situation. We are wanting to move so quickly to the next person because we don't want to feel. We don't want to feel the hurt from the disappointment. We don't want to feel the hurt from the abandonment. We don't want to feel the hurt from the brokenness of whatever happened with the previous relationship. So we run so quickly to the next person without taking any time for ourselves to heal. Life is about understanding that this is a journey to wholeness, becoming complete mind, body, and spirit, right? We're complete spiritually, but mentally, our thoughts are formed because of our experience. Our thoughts about what we're going to do in the future are shaped by our past experiences. So you have to take time to stop everything for yourself to create a life plan, meaning, what do I want? You have to be clear about that. What do I want? What is it going to take me to get there? If I want a mate, and this is where you're asking, if I want a mate who's a leader, and I feel that these are a few characteristics.
Can I follow?
Yes! Can you follow? Why is God going to send this great leader to your home when you don't understand submission? You don't understand how to follow. You have eternal issues with yourself and dealing with people in a close situation. And you're going to hurt God's son if you don't heal and become aware of where you are. That is where we need to focus. You get closer to the next stop by healing in this moment and understanding where you really are. And it takes honesty with yourself, but it also takes time to move away from everybody and feeling things that don't feel so great sometimes.
Yeah. I like that because I'm gonna just tweak it in my version of
Yeah.
that. Because being honest with yourself is dealing with the woman in the mirror, I like to say. But you can deal with the man in the mirror, I like the Michael Jackson version of it, the man in the mirror. But the version of it that you need to understand is to becoming your best self. And best self sometimes when you look in the mirror is everything that you see in the mirror you don't like.
Right.
There are some adjustments that we have to make with ourselves to tweak ourselves to become our best selves. And so that honesty, that transparency, but it's also not to be so superficial while we're in the mirror. It's about the things, when we're looking in the mirror, it is about an internal look, not at the superficial things on the outside when we're in that mirror journey. And we have to be honest about what it is that we want in the relationship. And we can do that, we can become whole. And I'm going to allow you all, because I want y'all to ask some questions if you all are question people on the line before we jump into some music. I don't want to not give you all an opportunity tonight to say something. So we have a few callers. Anybody has anything they want to ask about singleness, how to prepare, what does destiny-driven decisions look like, or if you're in a marriage, how do you get to a place where that is your destiny-driven life partner? Because you're in it. You've already said, this is who I'm signed up with. What is it that you need to make so you can be destiny-driven?
Right.
I hear some noise. You gonna breathe or just talk to me? Maybe. Hello? All right, you're going to listen in. That's fine. I'm glad you all are here listening. I'm not going to twist any arms, call any names. I'm glad y'all on the line. I appreciate that. And we are going to roll into our actually our last song of the evening. Then we're going to come back and close it out with and capture what the meat of the evening is, and want to make sure that you leave with a destiny-driven purpose to actually know where it is that you're going to go at your next level of your relationship. We're going to hear Lee Solonja, and it's about the journey, and that's what we've been talking about all day. It's about the journey.
Yes.
It's about the journey, just not today. It's about the entire journey. So get your baggage out of your car that you don't need for the journey.